Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about something absolutely monumental in the fashion industry, a historic achievement that represents not just a personal milestone for Jungkook but a watershed moment for Asian representation in global luxury fashion, and specifically we're diving into what Jungkook accomplished that hadn't happened in 58 years of Calvin Klein's existence as one of the world's most iconic fashion brands. This isn't just about being a brand ambassador or appearing in some advertisements, this is about making history, breaking barriers, and achieving something that literally no one before him in nearly 6 decades managed to accomplish. So make sure you hit that subscribe button because we're about to explore every dimension of this historic achievement, understand why it took 58 years for this to happen, appreciate what makes Jungkook special enough to be the one who finally did it, and recognize the broader significance of this moment for fashion, for representation, and for the continuing evolution of how global brands engage with Asian artists and Asian markets. Let me start by giving you the full context of Calvin Klein as a brand because understanding the magnitude of the company and its history is crucial to appreciating why being the first to achieve something in 58 years is so extraordinary. Calvin Klein was founded in 1968 by designer Calvin Klein and his business partner Barry Schwartz. From the beginning, the brand positioned itself as a purveyor of minimalist American style, creating clothing and eventually a full lifestyle brand that embodied clean lines, sophisticated simplicity, and a certain aspirational quality that made Calvin Klein synonymous with modern elegance and sex appeal. Over the decades, Calvin Klein has become one of the most recognizable fashion brands in the world, known not just for their clothing but for their iconic advertising campaigns, their celebrity endorsements, their perfumes and accessories, and their ability to capture cultural moments and zeitgeists through their marketing and brand positioning. The brand has worked with countless celebrities, models, and cultural figures over its 58-year history. From Brooke Shields and the controversial jeans campaign of the 1980s to Mark Wahlberg's iconic underwear advertisements in the 1990s to contemporary campaigns featuring various celebrities and influencers, Calvin Klein has always understood the power of celebrity endorsement and has been strategic about who represents their brand. They've had numerous brand ambassadors, countless celebrity collaborations, and have created some of the most memorable fashion advertising of the past half-century. So when we say that Jungkook achieved something that hadn't happened in all those 58 years with all those campaigns and all those celebrities, you understand the scale of what we're talking about. Now let's talk specifically about what Jungkook achieved that represents this 58-year first for Calvin Klein. In March 2023, Calvin Klein announced that Jungkook would be their newest global brand ambassador, which in itself was significant. But the historic nature of this partnership goes beyond just the ambassador title. Jungkook became the first Asian global ambassador for Calvin Klein in the brand's entire 58-year history. Think about that for a moment. A brand that has existed since 1968, that has sold products worldwide including throughout Asia for decades, that has had countless campaigns and ambassadors and celebrity partnerships, had never in all that time selected an Asian artist to be their global brand ambassador representing the entire brand across all markets and all product lines. The significance of this cannot be overstated because it represents both the historic lack of Asian representation at the highest levels of global luxury fashion marketing and the changing landscape where brands are finally recognizing both the commercial power and the cultural importance of Asian artists and Asian markets. For 58 years, Calvin Klein's vision of who could represent their brand globally, who embodied the aesthetic and values and appeal they wanted to project, apparently never included an Asian face despite Asia representing enormous markets and despite countless talented and appealing Asian celebrities, models, and artists who could have filled this role. Jungkook breaking through this barrier isn't just a personal achievement, it's a historical correction, a long overdue recognition that Asian artists can and should be the global faces of major fashion brands. Let me talk about why Jungkook specifically was the person who finally broke through this 58-year barrier because understanding what makes him special helps us appreciate both his individual appeal and what had to align for this historic moment to happen. First and most obviously, Jungkook has achieved a level of global fame and recognition that makes him commercially valuable to a brand like Calvin Klein. As a member of BTS, he's reached hundreds of millions of people worldwide, has built a dedicated fanbase that crosses all demographics and geographic boundaries, and has proven ability to generate attention, engagement, and commercial success for anything he's associated with. When Jungkook wears Calvin Klein, millions of people notice. When he appears in Calvin Klein campaigns, those campaigns generate massive media coverage and social media engagement. From a pure business perspective, Jungkook brings enormous value to the brand through his reach and influence. But commercial value alone doesn't explain why Jungkook was the one to break this barrier, because there have been other commercially successful Asian artists over the past 58 years who could have brought similar business value. What sets Jungkook apart is the combination of his global reach with his specific aesthetic appeal that aligns perfectly with Calvin Klein's brand identity. Calvin Klein has always emphasized a certain kind of minimalist, sophisticated, sensual aesthetic. Their campaigns feature people who embody confidence, natural appeal, understated sexiness, and modern style. Jungkook fits this aesthetic perfectly. His look, his style, his physical presence, his ability to project both approachability and aspirational qualities, all align with what Calvin Klein wants their brand to represent. His tattoos, his confident demeanor, his athletic build, his fashion sense that balances edginess with classic style, his ability to look both comfortable and striking in Calvin Klein's minimalist designs, all of this makes him not just a celebrity who happens to be partnering with the brand but someone who genuinely embodies what Calvin Klein represents. When you see Jungkook in Calvin Klein campaigns, it doesn't feel forced or incongruous, it feels natural, like of course this is what Calvin Klein looks like on a contemporary global icon. This authentic fit between artist and brand aesthetic is part of why this partnership works and why Jungkook could be the one to finally break through the 58-year barrier. Now let's discuss the timing of this achievement, because March 2023, when this partnership was announced, represents a particular moment in both Jungkook's career and in the broader cultural landscape that made this historic first possible. By 2023, Jungkook and BTS had spent years systematically breaking barriers and achieving unprecedented success for Asian artists in Western markets. They'd topped the Billboard Hot 100 multiple times, sold out stadiums worldwide, earned mainstream media coverage, collaborated with major Western artists, and generally proven that Asian artists could achieve the highest levels of global success. This groundwork created an environment where major Western brands could no longer ignore or dismiss Asian artists as potential global ambassadors, because the commercial success and cultural impact were undeniable. Additionally, by 2023 there was growing awareness within fashion and luxury industries about the importance of representation and diversity, driven partly by genuine social progress and partly by recognition of the enormous economic power of Asian markets and Asian consumers. Brands were being called out for their lack of diversity, consumers were demanding more inclusive representation, and there was increasing understanding that global brands should reflect the actual diversity of their global customer base. This cultural moment, combined with Jungkook's specific achievements and appeal, created the conditions where Calvin Klein could make the decision to finally have an Asian global ambassador, breaking their 58-year pattern. The announcement itself generated massive attention and media coverage, which validated Calvin Klein's decision from a business perspective, because the sheer volume of engagement and publicity created by Jungkook's appointment demonstrated his value as an ambassador. Social media exploded with reactions, fashion media covered the announcement extensively, and mainstream media outlets reported on this partnership as significant news. The Calvin Klein Instagram posts featuring Jungkook broke engagement records for the brand, his campaign photos and videos generated hundreds of millions of views and interactions, and the hashtags related to the partnership trended globally. This response proved that Jungkook wasn't just a good choice for Asian markets but was genuinely a global draw who could generate attention and interest worldwide. Let me talk about the campaign content itself, because the way Calvin Klein chose to feature Jungkook in their advertising tells us something important about how they view him and about the evolution of how Asian artists are being presented in Western fashion marketing. Rather than exoticizing him or emphasizing his Asian identity as something foreign or other, the campaigns present Jungkook simply as an attractive, stylish, confident person who happens to be Korean but who could appeal to anyone anywhere. The photos and videos showcase him in classic Calvin Klein aesthetic, minimalist styling, black and white photography, in some cases, focus on his physical presence and natural charisma. He's styled and photographed in ways that emphasize universal appeal rather than cultural specificity, which is exactly how Calvin Klein has always approached their campaigns regardless of who's featured. This approach is significant because it represents treating an Asian ambassador exactly the same way the brand has always treated ambassadors of other backgrounds, which might seem like a small thing but actually represents important progress from historical patterns where Asian celebrities in Western advertising were often presented in ways that emphasized their otherness or exoticism rather than their universal human appeal. By presenting Jungkook as simply an exceptionally attractive and stylish person who embodies Calvin Klein's aesthetic, the brand is making a statement about seeing him as fully equal to any ambassador they've ever had, which is what genuine representation should look like. The product lines and campaign scope for Jungkook's partnership also reflect his position as a true global ambassador rather than someone limited to certain markets or certain product categories. He's featured across Calvin Klein's various lines including underwear, jeans, and fragrances, appearing in campaigns that run globally across all markets. This comprehensive scope of partnership is different from regional ambassadorships where an Asian celebrity might represent the brand only in Asian markets, or limited partnerships where someone appears only in campaigns for specific products. Jungkook's role encompasses the full brand globally, which is part of what makes his 58-year first so significant. He's not just breaking into Calvin Klein's roster in some limited capacity, he's doing it at the highest level as a full global brand ambassador. Now I want to discuss what this achievement means for representation and barrier breaking, because the personal achievement for Jungkook is just one dimension of the significance. The broader implications for Asian artists and for how global brands approach partnerships and representation are equally important. For decades, Asian artists and Asian culture were marginalized in Western fashion marketing. When Asian faces did appear in Western luxury brand campaigns, it was often in limited contexts, for Asia-specific campaigns, or in ways that emphasized exoticism rather than presenting Asian models and celebrities as simply attractive people who could have universal appeal. There was an implicit assumption, rarely stated explicitly but evident in who brands chose as their global ambassadors, that the ideal face for global luxury marketing was white, that Asian celebrities could help sell products in Asian markets but couldn't be the global faces of brands because they supposedly wouldn't appeal to Western consumers. Jungkook breaking Calvin Klein's 58-year pattern where they'd never had an Asian global ambassador shatters this assumption definitively. The massive global success of his campaigns, the positive reception from consumers worldwide regardless of their background, the business results that Calvin Klein has achieved through this partnership, all prove that the assumption was wrong and was based on prejudice rather than market reality. Asian celebrities can absolutely be global ambassadors for major luxury brands, can appeal to consumers worldwide, and can generate the kind of attention and engagement that makes them valuable partnerships for brands seeking to maximize their impact and reach. This proof and this precedent create opportunities for other Asian artists and models, because once Calvin Klein broke their 58-year pattern with Jungkook and achieved success, other brands take notice and become more willing to consider Asian ambassadors for their own global campaigns. We're already seeing this ripple effect with other major fashion brands increasingly partnering with Korean and Asian celebrities at the global level rather than limiting them to regional partnerships. Jungkook's breakthrough helps normalize Asian representation in global luxury fashion marketing, which has effects that extend far beyond just this one partnership. Let me talk about the business results and commercial impact of this partnership, because ultimately brands make these decisions based on projected business value, and the success of the Jungkook-Calvin Klein partnership validates the business case for Asian global ambassadors in ways that make it easier for future partnerships to happen. Reports indicate that Calvin Klein saw significant increases in engagement, visibility, and sales associated with the Jungkook partnership. His campaigns generated unprecedented social media engagement for the brand, his presence drove traffic to Calvin Klein's online platforms and physical stores, and there was measurable increase in brand awareness and positive brand sentiment, particularly among younger demographics that are crucial for luxury brands seeking to build long-term customer relationships. In Asian markets specifically, the partnership drove enormous engagement and commercial success, which makes business sense given Jungkook's popularity in these regions. But importantly, the success wasn't limited to Asian markets. Western markets also responded positively to the campaigns, demonstrating that Jungkook's appeal is genuinely global and that Western consumers don't require white ambassadors to connect with a brand or to desire products. This global success across diverse markets is what makes the partnership so valuable for Calvin Klein and what proves the business case for continuing and expanding partnerships with Asian global ambassadors. The social media metrics tell a compelling story about the scale of impact. Calvin Klein's Instagram posts featuring Jungkook consistently generate millions of likes and hundreds of thousands of comments, dramatically exceeding their average engagement on posts featuring other ambassadors or campaign content. Hashtags related to the partnership trend globally. Fan-created content related to Jungkook's Calvin Klein campaigns generates additional millions of impressions and interactions, and the sustained attention and conversation around the partnership extends far beyond the initial announcement period. From a brand marketing perspective, this level of organic engagement and attention is extraordinarily valuable and difficult to purchase through paid advertising alone. Now let's discuss how Jungkook himself has approached this historic partnership, because the way he engages with being Calvin Klein's first Asian global ambassador in 58 years shows professionalism, pride, and awareness of the significance while maintaining the authentic personal style that makes him appealing. He shared campaign content on his personal social media, engaged with fans' reactions to his Calvin Klein appearances, and generally embraced the partnership in ways that feel genuine rather than purely transactional. His comfort and confidence in the campaign content, the way he naturally embodies the Calvin Klein aesthetic, and his evident pride in this achievement all contribute to why the partnership works so well and why it resonates with audiences. He's also aware of the representation significance, understanding that being the first Asian global ambassador for such a major brand carries meaning beyond personal career achievement. While he doesn't make this his primary focus in how he discusses the partnership, the awareness is there in comments about being proud to represent, about hoping to do well in this role, and about appreciation for the opportunity. This balance between personal pride and recognition of broader significance is part of what makes Jungkook effective as an ambassador. He takes the role seriously and understands its importance while still maintaining the natural charisma and authenticity that make him appealing in the first place. Let me talk about the creative content from the campaigns, because beyond just the business and representation significance, the actual photographs and videos from Jungkook's Calvin Klein campaigns are visually striking and artistically strong content that showcases both his appeal and the brand's aesthetic effectively. The photography captures him in various settings and moods, from classic studio shots with clean backgrounds that emphasize his physical presence to more lifestyle-oriented content that shows him in casual settings wearing Calvin Klein casually. The black and white photography has a timeless quality while the color images are crisp and modern. The styling is consistently minimalist and sophisticated, allowing Jungkook's natural appeal to be the focus rather than overwhelming him with busy styling or excessive production. The video content similarly showcases him effectively, capturing his movement, his expressions, his ability to project different moods and energies as needed for different campaign concepts. Whether it's more sensual advertising for Calvin Klein underwear or more casual lifestyle content for jeans and everyday wear, Jungkook adapts his presentation to fit what each campaign requires while still maintaining the core authenticity that makes him compelling to watch. The production values are consistently high, reflecting Calvin Klein's status as a major luxury brand, and the creative direction positions Jungkook in ways that emphasize his appeal without falling into cliché or stereotype. Now I want to address the fan response and community reaction to this achievement, because the way ARMY and broader K-pop fandoms received the news of Jungkook becoming Calvin Klein's first Asian global ambassador tells us something about the significance of representation moments like this. Fans were overwhelmingly proud and excited, celebrating not just because their favorite artist got a prestigious partnership but because they understood the historic significance of being the first in 58 years. Fan discussions emphasized the barrier-breaking nature of the achievement, the importance for Asian representation in global fashion, and pride in seeing someone who looks like them or who comes from their culture being recognized at this level by a major Western luxury brand. The fan support translated into concrete actions that helped make the partnership successful, with fans enthusiastically engaging with campaign content, supporting the brand by purchasing Calvin Klein products, creating and sharing fan content that extended the reach of the campaigns, and generally helping to generate the massive engagement and attention that proved the business value of the partnership. This fan support is part of why the partnership works so well for Calvin Klein and part of why other brands are increasingly interested in partnering with K-pop artists. The engaged and supportive fandoms amplify the reach and impact of campaigns in ways that create exceptional value. In conclusion, when we say that Jungkook achieved something that hadn't happened in 58 years of Calvin Klein history, we're talking about an achievement with multiple layers of significance. On the personal level, it represents Jungkook reaching a milestone in his career where one of the world's most iconic fashion brands chose him as their global ambassador. On the representation level, it represents breaking a 58-year pattern where Calvin Klein had never selected an Asian artist for this role, finally providing representation that should have happened decades earlier. On the business level, it represents a partnership that has proven commercially successful and validated the business case for Asian global ambassadors at major luxury brands. On the cultural level, it represents changing dynamics in global fashion where Asian artists are increasingly recognized not as regional additions but as truly global stars who can represent major brands worldwide. And on the broader societal level, it represents progress toward more inclusive and diverse representation in fashion marketing where people of all backgrounds can see themselves reflected in luxury brand campaigns and can aspire to be associated with these brands. Jungkook being the one to finally break through this 58-year barrier demonstrates his exceptional appeal, his perfect fit with Calvin Klein's aesthetic, his global reach and influence, and his position as a transformative figure in how Asian artists are perceived and valued by Western industries. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more content celebrating historic achievements, and let me know in the comments what you think this achievement means for representation in fashion.